I just want to thank Roshart and Debbie Gedney for putting this together this evening. And let's start by introducing our host for this evening, Mr. Luis Paredes, who is the publisher of the Lingerie Journal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm very honored to be part of this panel discussion. Very happy the Underfashion Club asked me to do this, and it's on Shopping 2.0, e-commerce, social media, and mobile commerce, and how it's shaping and changing shopper behavior. And it's really a topic that really interested me. Roz had asked me for a subject for the next panel discussion, and this was something close to me because a year ago, my wife decided that she wanted to be a roller derby girl. And we had no idea how to get her started. So we went to see a game and realized everything involved in this sport was hard to get a hold of. From the skates to the gear to all the crazy outfits that they wear. So to find out how we can get a hold of everything, I got on my iPad, she got on her iPhone, and we just did a search because we knew we couldn't find the old school quad skates at Modell's. So we found everything that she needed to be a roller derby girl online. And she was able to look at reviews, she was able to make her decisions on what she wanted just based on online shopping. So it was, for me, it just really illustrated how things are changing. So I just wanted to take a second to, and you have to forgive me if things like this go wrong. Okay. So to start, I just wanted to go over a few interesting facts and figures that really stood out in my mind about how e-commerce has changed and is changing. It's predicted that a 62% predicted percentage of e-tail spending will increase in 2016. About U.S. consumers will spend about $327 billion in 2016. The number of U.S. consumers who shop online by 2016 will be 192 million. And this last fact really interested me because I was part of this percentage. 70% is the percentage of holiday shoppers last year who said they made purchases online rather than in stores because online retailers offered better deals. Part of that was also laziness because I didn't want to go out. And a lot of this is obviously fueled by the increasing popularity and interaction of social media, smartphones, and tablets among consumers. With social commerce, just quickly, social commerce is the use of social networks in the context of e-commerce transactions. So we're talking everything from Facebook to Twitter to any social media, but obviously Facebook is the one that's one of the most popular ones and that has e-commerce that can be built into it. Right now, about 150 million people engage with Facebook on external websites each month. In terms of social media and how it affects consumers, about 90% of all purchases are subject to social influence. And with that, 90% of consumers trust recommendations from people they know. 67% spend more online after recommendations. And about 1 million plus websites have implemented Facebook's social layer, all really leading to $30 billion in predicted revenues for social commerce by 2015, which is a huge number, which is basically zero about 5-10 years ago. With mobile commerce, that's another layer of e-commerce that's really rising. There are going to be more cell phones shipped than PCs. They said that more cell phones shipped than PCs in the fourth quarter of 2010, and by the end of 2012, there'll be more cell phones on the planet than people. So that's a little scary. By 2014, about 20% of the US population will have tablets. Again, an incredible figure is seeing how the iPad only recently came out. One more right here. Yeah, exactly. And something that I've noticed personally, I do all my searches on my iPhone. You know, everything from where I want to go, where I want to be, to things that I want to shop. Basically, I always consult Siri. An interesting fact about consumers is that 29% of mobile users are open to scanning a mobile tag to get coupons. And that's those QR codes that you readily see that are more prevalent nowadays. And again, it's really, all of these devices, social media, are really affecting consumer behavior. Consumers rely and actively give online reviews, conduct price comparisons while shopping, and scan barcodes advertising in stores. And obviously, and I just want to speak to doing price comparisons. I've noticed that because of the iPhone and the iPad, it's something that I do without even thinking. If I'm in a brick and mortar store, I'm constantly checking other sites to see if the price is within range. And I'm sure tons of people do that now. So to continue the discussion, I really want to hand it over to the panelists to talk a little bit about how social media, e-commerce, and mobile commerce is impacting their business. And I just want to start by introducing the panelists. Layla Lubadi, designer and founder of Between the Sheets. Kevin Doyle of Trifecta. Ken Notori of Notori. And I'm going to start with Layla, talk a little bit, again, on how all these things impact what she's doing with Between the Sheets.
Yeah, I'm mic. I have a mic, yeah. I just need a clicker. Thank you. Hi, I'm Layla Lubadi, and I am a former, or I guess I'm an alumni of the Underfashion Club and a recipient of an Underfashion Club scholarship. So I've been... So it's really nice to be back here on the other side again. I was also up here my senior year. Eurovet sent me to the Paris trade show. So I was lucky at the holiday party. I got my name got pulled out of the hat after having food poisoning. I was kind of delirious and won that. So again, I owe a lot to the Underfashion Club. You know, networking capabilities and also internship opportunities. So just to start on that note. So I worked in the industry for a couple of years, but I had started an event when I was at FIT called Between the Sheets, and that's probably part of the reason I got my scholarship was because during the time that I was at FIT, the sophomore class no longer got a fashion show, and I started this event to kind of promote awareness of intimate apparel and also kind of get my fellow classmates excited about designing something for a real body and not just a mannequin, because they had changed the presentation into sort of more of a mannequin presentation. And I thought it was really important in intimates, it's all about fit, so we should be fitting the body as early as possible, getting that experience. And so that's part of the reason I started the event. And after I graduated, I went and worked, and that was always in the back of my head, the name Between the Sheets, and all the ideas were always floating around. The designer has many jobs and they can design for multiple collections, and so I think I always had in the back of my head the vision for Between the Sheets. So in 2008, I picked a really bad time to launch, but I had quit my job and then the economy crashed. So I was working at a hotel, front desk, paying the bills and also designing the collection and getting in touch with suppliers that I knew, finding new suppliers because other suppliers maybe weren't ready to work with a new brand at that time. So from the beginning, I knew that in a difficult economy, one of the things that I could have an edge in, which I had in school, was my knowledge of the internet. Being part of a new generation that's grown up with mobile devices and laptop computers and understanding websites. I can't explain even like an entry field to my aunt or my uncle. They don't understand what that is. So that edge I wanted to use to market myself. So when I started planning the collection, designing the website was one of the first things that I did. So what you see here is up on the screen is an image of our blog. The blog basically, to me, was sort of an evolution of the website. The blog is how you can share news. It's basically a press release for consumers. So to me, I wanted to treat our blog as kind of like a little peek behind the scenes of what we did. And that was actually one of the very first things that we launched. We had a wholesale kind of website set up, and then we launched the blog in 2009. So before we had even shipped any product or done any trade shows, we had the blog. So social media and sharing what we did behind the scenes was part of what I started with. I started getting followers on Twitter. I put up a Twitter and I was tweeting blog posts. So I started getting followers on Twitter. You know, some boutiques would start following me, and that was kind of how I started some of the relationships that led to some of our first appointments at our very first trade show. So we did Curve in August of 2009, and some of the people that we met with there, I had connected with on social media. So already I had seen the power of online networking, allowing me to meet people that I would never have met as a designer sitting behind a desk. I would never have had that sales experience, so I had to build it all from scratch. So the blog is kind of the face of the company, but in a behind-the-scenes kind of way. So it lets people connect with the brand. And as a young brand, you have to start from scratch, and you have to create that image, bring it out of the ethos, and let people see who you are and what you're aiming to create. And as the designer, being involved in all of the social media is really important to me because it helps distill down the essence of the brand into each of these platforms. And so in each of them, you're going to get a taste of the brand, but a different facet of it. And I'm currently still just one person. I also have my partner who helps me a lot. But I'm the one tweeting, I'm the one Facebooking, blogging, Instagramming, everything, you name it, I do it. Emailing customers who email us on the website, talking to stores, presenting the collection at Market Week. So I really do everything. It's a 24-hour day job. My BlackBerry is attached to me all the time. Like, I'm checking it constantly. But that's what it takes, I think, now to start a brand today, because I think starting a collection many years ago, these things didn't matter, but today it matters to stores that you're active, that you're aware of the consumer, that you're interacting with the consumer. So after I created the company Twitter, I also created a personal one to separate myself from the brand and to also give people a chance to interact with me. And since then, it's evolved. Other different things have picked up from there. Let me see if I can. So here's our Facebook page. We've now, actually, in the last couple weeks since I took this screen cap, we're now almost 3,000 fans. So social media-wise, we're growing really rapidly. But you can see the images are part of the marketing, but also they just enhance all the social media. So the same images being used in different ways throughout our website and our social media, and then also sharing things like you can see the videos on there, but if I go back you can also see we have the same video from Vimeo embedded on the side of our blog. So things like video, images, and words are all used in one place. So here on the blog you can see all of that in one place. Twitter is the shortest, quickest way to get your point across. The limit is 144 characters, and being witty is of an advantage here. So this is where we share little short links to things, but also where you can be more personal. And that's part of the reason you can see at the top there's a little mention of @LingerieLayla. That's my personal Twitter. And so you'll get maybe more of a personal idea for who I am. If you follow Lingerie Layla, I'm tweeting about cats. But if you follow Between the Sheets, you're going to hear stories about Between the Sheets. And then the most recent addition to our social media has been Pinterest. And I think Pinterest is, as a designer, of huge interest to me, and as a shopper too, because as a designer, it eliminates the needs for tear sheets. Basically, if you're OCD and you have tear sheets and you have them in a bunch of folders, scan all of them, put them on Pinterest, and you can sort them into boards by category, by mood. Here's just one of the mood behind Between the Sheets. So images that I find inspiring, it's your digital mood board. And as a brand, I see it as a really quick way to get your point across, and also cost effectively, because you don't necessarily have to have made all these images to create a mood board. There's all sorts of other issues with that right now. They've got copyright issues on their table. But, but just in general, the power of Pinterest is also that if somebody's shopping online or if they're on Pinterest, there's a little price thing that goes across it. So you already know what the product looks like, you know the price. So once somebody clicks through from Pinterest, there's a real power in that. So I'm sure we'll get into that more later. But those are some of the reasons that I'm on social media, and I find it important to our business. I also had a Foursquare account, and I wanted to mention that. It's not one of the things we're going to go over really quickly, but I think Foursquare is really important. There's no retailers on the panel, but Foursquare is a great opportunity for retailers to connect with customers. Foursquare, I'll check in on Foursquare. I'll see if there's specials nearby. But also, as a brand, you can mention the stores and have lists of stores that are stalking you on Foursquare. So if somebody's in the area or they follow you as a brand, like I checked in here at the St. Giles as Between the Sheets and announced to all of our Twitter followers that we were here. And so I'm announcing St. Giles and I'm announcing the event. So there's so many powerful social media platforms that you can be on, and I just wanted to mention that for the retailers that might be in the audience. And I guess you can ask more questions later on, but that's my brief spiel. Pass it on.
Thank you. So my name's Kevin Doyle. Whoops, I gotta turn this on. Messed up right away. My name's Kevin Doyle, and I run an e-commerce business. And I have the greatest job in the world because I get to work with some clients, creative people, designers, people who design and manufacture phenomenal products, and I help, in my little part, help them bring that to the world in what I'd like to think is a special kind of way. So it's a kind of a win-win situation. My background is I've been in the e-commerce space since the mid-90s, which is probably about when it started. So I'm a veteran. I used to work at IBM. When I was at IBM, I had the privilege of working with some of the largest brands in the world, Louis Vuitton, Hermes. I spent a lot of time in Europe. And so I understand the power of brand. And that's kind of the theme that we have with our clients, because it really is the power of their brand. And we want to help them bring that power using all of the social networks and all of the tools at their disposal to their prospective clients. So I have a little video here that kind of explains who we are and what we do in 1 minute and 20 seconds. So I apologize, it's a bit of a commercial, but maybe a lot of one. But the point is, I worked for IBM for 15 years. IBM makes probably the #1 e-commerce product, them and Oracle, depending on who you believe, in the world. And so I left IBM about 4.5 years ago with a number of my colleagues, and we formed this business to really enable the power of that incredible software for people in more of the mid-market. Not everyone is a Walmart, a Sears, a Staples, can afford all that money, all that time. So we found a way, we think, and some of our clients tell us they have, found a way to make that more affordable for people. And that's really our goal, that's our passion. Everyone who works in our company, we're all shareholders. Our passion is to help our clients, and our passion is e-commerce. So it's your brand, so we want to do our little part to make our clients successful. Now, is that supposed to go? Oh,
Yeah,
there we
there
go.
you go.
So, Coal America is one of our clients, and in their case, we've used our store in a box to launch them in a fairly short time frame. And in their site, we do multiple brands, and you can see there's some similarities in here, but these brands could have a different look and feel. Mm-hmm. So, it all depends on, again, the brand experience. And like most e-commerce sites, we want to try and espouse the power of the brand and the products, with the imagery. We have all of the links to the social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, etc. And again, you know, I guess as Ken knows, having done this, launching an e-commerce site, like it says in the video, is it's what I always say, it's one of the most exciting and one of the scariest things that you're going to do. Because literally you're taking every part of your company, every aspect of business you do, and you're putting it on the web for people to use in self-service. So all those multiples of systems you have, so when a particular garment in a particular size runs out of that color, you have to take that off the site immediately. So there's a lot of interaction that goes on in there, and we've tried to simplify that for clients. And obviously cross-selling, upselling, and trying to expand basket size is pretty common in the e-commerce space. And social networking is a big part of it. So whether it's you know, in blogging, trying to establish that direct relationship with clients. So this is not about trying to go around the store channels at all. This is expanding the brand. You know, so this isn't a play to try and, you know, just drive sales. This is it's about getting your message out there, getting your brand value proposition out there, and using the tools to help you do that and connect with end customers. And again, you can use it for things like events, you know, finding a fit for the cure, what's coming at a fit you know, near a store near you, etc. So it's all about trying to capture that brand and bring it to people's attention. Now, I have a couple of slides in here that are a little different, but it really speaks to me about where e-commerce is going. And I think it's going in a way that it's not only more social, but it is more experiential, if I can use that term. So in this case, this is another customer who they sell cheerleading uniforms. The largest manufacturer of cheerleading uniforms in North America. And if you're selling cheerleading uniforms, you understand that, you know, every school wants to have something different. Well, you know, trying to do that in a paper catalog is a very difficult thing. So imagine that those chevrons are red and these ones, you know, it doesn't work. So by using the power of technology, you can create environments like this where people can design uniforms online. You know, so it really shortens the cycle, and it shortens the spoilage in terms of manufacturing something and say, no, it's not what I want. So, and you can see, you know, in using, one of the things we try to do, again, based on the customer's brand, is try to make it unique. And in this case, this is kind of a game changer for their business. And you can see how, you know, with a little ingenuity, this virtual apparel designer, virtual dressing room, could be a, you know, virtual dressing room for any company. I mean, if you had your picture on there or your body type, you could then try on the clothes you have in your catalog on your online site. And this is where I think things, you know, one of the areas where I think it's really kind of heading, because the tools are available now, the social networks are available now, so that you know, people can do these exciting things online, and our goal is to help people do that. And the same concept applies for, this is just what I just said, for flooring. You know, if you're selling flooring to convention centers and buildings, you know, getting a little 2x2 panel is like, imagine what that looks like. But again, using technology, we create virtual rooms. We can put shadowing, we can put sunlight, you can put different treatments. I mean, you can do the same things with apparel. You know, so this is what gets me excited about this business, is why I think I have the greatest job in the world, is we can do some innovative things to help, you know, companies such as yours. I don't mean just me, there's other companies out here that do that, but I'm looking at it from your perspective. If you want to see where e-commerce is going, you know, what the opportunities are, then these are the kinds of things that are emerging now. And these technologies will only become cheaper, more effective to use over time. So maybe it's, you know, time to start thinking in those directions, at least. And of course, everything is mobile. I mean, you walk around the streets, this is tethered to people's hands, no matter where you go. As Luis said, when he's in a store, he's checking prices. And it used to be, mobile's not around that long, but a year or two ago, it was about, well, you know, it's a small device, we can't put everything on the site on it, you just have to do little pieces of it. Well, the technology is becoming so refined that that's not acceptable anymore. I mean, people are starting to use this as their main devices. With my little phone here, I can go home, put it in a docking station. It becomes a PC. Think about tablets. You saw the statistics of it, but mobile devices are expanding. And yes, there will be more phones than people in the world. 3 years ago in Italy, there was 2 phones for every person. They had one for work, they had one for personal use. So it's just exploding. I think last year in December, 8% of all internet transactions came from a mobile device. 8%. In e-commerce, that number was 11%. 11% of online transactions came from a mobile device last December. So it's going to explode. So the philosophy you should be thinking of is not just on, well, let's do a coupon application on your phone. You need to provide the whole experience. And again, the technology is available now that allows you to do that. Leverage what you already deployed on your e-commerce site in a way that you can very quickly and cost effectively make that available on the on mobile devices. And there's a new term called omni-channel. In e-commerce land, we used to call it cross-channel, multi-channel. Now it's omni-channel because it's everywhere. So no matter what the device is, you need to be able to service it because that's where the customers are. But you want to be able to take advantage of a mobile phone for what it's good for, like geolocations and even simple things like if you have on a website, you have your phone number. Well, on a phone, you should be able to just tap it and dial. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. That's kind of who we are, what we do, and kind of where I kind of see things going in a nutshell. Sure.
Hello. I wasn't nervous about this until about 2 hours ago when my mother told me she was coming, so hopefully we'll be okay. So what I was hoping to do was to walk you through the decision we faced back in 2007 when we decided to start our own e-commerce, talk about the different options that we were looking at, the option we actually ended up taking, discuss what's worked, what hasn't worked, and hopefully that'll sort of set the stage for some questions for the panel going forward. So I joined Notori back in 2007, initially to learn about the business by working in the finance department, but really a couple of months after I joined, it just became clear that our biggest need was we needed somebody to sort of take charge of our e-commerce strategy, at which time there was really none. We did have a website. It had static images up there, but it was really difficult to maintain and didn't really do anything in terms of taking the customers anywhere after they sort of viewed our collection. So we really decided that we needed to tackle e-commerce and we needed to do it quickly. Obviously we were reading reports at the time and we knew that a lot of business was going to move online, but really more than that, something that really appealed to us about the opportunity was that we really wanted the ability to control a customer experience from point A to point Z. As many of you here are, we do most of our business from a wholesale perspective and work with retailers who are great partners. But obviously, there's only so much you can do about controlling an experience in the store. You're mixed in with other brands. You don't have full control over what's bought or how it's merchandised. And we were really excited about the opportunity to, like I said, really control the process for the customer from point A to point Z. In terms of being a wholesaler, obviously your strategy towards e-commerce is a little different than it would be otherwise. A lot of websites, they just want to maximize sales and maximize profit. And while that's obviously great for any business, the fact that we are still largely a wholesale business gave us a different sort of point of view in terms of our thinking about e-commerce. So, our mission statement for our website is not to drive as many sales as we can to Notori.com. Instead, when we get to work in the morning, we think, we want to represent the brand well. We want to teach customers about our brand, have them have good interaction with the brand, and really give them a good experience on our website. That could lead to a number of different things. It could certainly lead to a purchase at Notori.com, but it just as likely may lead to a purchase in a Saks store or on Nordstrom.com or through a Neiman Marcus catalog. And when I sit with my team, what we think about is we view all of those final outcomes agnostically. And I think really for any wholesale brand that runs your own e-commerce, I kind of think that that's the way that you need to think about it, because obviously you don't want to grow your business and cannibalize other parts of your business, especially since, as I'm sure many of you are seeing, the .com accounts are really helping drive growth overall. So what were our options? So it was 2007. We knew we wanted to do e-commerce. We had no one, myself included, who had any idea how to do it. So we looked at kind of two different strategies. One, which is certainly would have been the simplest way to do things, was to sort of work with what's called a turnkey partner. For those of you not familiar with that, turnkey is basically you find one partner, and there are a number of them that we looked at, who take control of everything. They build your website, they come to your showroom, they do the buy, they warehouse the goods, they pick, pack, and ship the goods, they process returns, they do customer service, they do marketing. At the end of the month, they take out a very substantial commission and send you a check. And we looked at that and said, this is great. None of us know what we're doing. Let's look at this. This would be the easiest thing to do, and let's go down that route. And we actually really came close to doing that. And then ultimately, at the last second, when we were in negotiations, I kind of got cold feet, and everybody got cold feet, because we looked at what the mission was for Notori.com, which once again was, work in harmony with our retail partners and create a great customer experience. And we didn't necessarily think that was congruent with the strategy of a turnkey. The turnkey people, they work on commission, they want to drive sales to that site, and they want to process sales. And we were just worried that, look, if we really did want to control the customer experience from A to Z, and we want to make sure we're taking care of our wholesale partner, of our retail partners, we didn't really feel that turnkey solution was going to be completely congruent with what we wanted out of the website. So ultimately, we decided to do everything ourselves, and we'll sort of get through how we did that in the next slide. So we launched the site in April 2008. And we started, with a very basic site. We only had our sleepwear on it, and there wasn't, there was fine functionality, but there certainly weren't too many bells and whistles. Once again, our thought being, we just wanted to sort of not make too big of an investment, put it out there, see how it starts, see how it works, and then if it justifies it, make additional investments and sort of continue to ramp it up. Fortunately, the early returns were good. We got sales that we were happy with, and more importantly, we really got great customer feedback, and that's one thing from our wholesale business that you don't necessarily get all the time. A real direct interaction with your customers and a real-time sense of what's working and what's not working. Through the years, we've added categories to the site, and now we're proud to say, as of this spring, we have every single collection available on Notori.com, from our bras and underwear to our ready-to-wear collection. We have towels, fragrance, sunglasses, bedding, swim, and home accents. So now Notori.com truly is a store that represents everything that we are doing in the world of Notori. And in addition to that, we've also launched microsites. So most of you are probably most familiar with our Notori brand, which is certainly our most prominent. We also have a collection called Josie, which is more modern and more contemporary, and we've been making a big investment in that collection. So we launched our own microsite called josiebynotori.com, which, as you can see here, is sort of like a younger feel, and that's really resonated well with our younger clients. And then last fall, we launched a third microsite, or I guess a second microsite, for our N Notori collection. N Notori's, I guess we can call it a diffusion collection, kind of Notori sensibility at a more accessible price point. We launched our sleepwear from N Notori last fall, and our N Notori bra collection just launched in the last couple of months, the bra collection being more focused on full-figured women, and that's been very successful both in the stores and online as well. So what I wanted to sort of walk you through was, this may not be too exciting for people who do shop online, and it may look like, not that exciting, but I thought it'd be interesting for everybody to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes on any given e-commerce page. So this is our product page at Notori.com, and I just happened to choose a ready-to-wear page, and this is one of our new dresses. And this is kind of how the site looked when we first launched. Like I said, it was pretty plain vanilla and no bells and whistles. One of the first things, and actually probably the most successful thing we ever implemented, was Zoom technology, which was with a vendor called RichFX. So when the site first launched, you could click on the picture and a bigger picture would show up. But it really didn't give the customer not necessarily a better idea of what they were trying to buy. So I think sometime between, I think probably about maybe 18 months after the site launched, we partnered with RichFX to allow users to really zoom in on any product and really get a better sense of what the fabric was like and how it draped and how everything looked. And getting this implemented was a good deal of work, but it was also, in terms of improving our conversion rates, really far and away the most influential thing we ever did. Giving the customers a better idea of what they're buying and really getting sort of a more close-up detail in terms of the product was a tremendously successful. So now RichFX, they host all of our high-res images, and they provide the zoom technology basically on products throughout all our different categories. One thing we launched just actually about a month or two ago was Share This. So obviously it's great to have people come to your website, but what's sort of even better than that is having people come to your website and tell all of their friends throughout their various social networks that they're on this website, this is a product they love, here's a link, you should go to this page too. And that's what this Share This functionality does. So basically on any page, if a user thumbs over that little Share This icon, lacking about a year ago was the ability for people to chat live with customer service reps if they had a fit question, if they had a question about our return policy, whatever. So we worked with a partner called ConnectWise, and now on all our product pages and at various pages throughout the site, users can scroll, can thumb over, click here for live chat. They click a button, this little window comes up, and they can start typing in questions, and then we have customer service reps, assuming it's business hours, Monday to Friday, who are ready to answer their questions. And this has been another very popular function as well. Okay, and I don't have to go through this whole list here, but the good thing about doing turnkey, you just work with one person. While doing everything ourselves has been fantastic, this is a whole list of different vendors, and we have to maintain all of these relationships to keep our site going and to market it appropriately. And if people are interested, we can go over that in more detail later. So quickly, just wanted to touch on as well, obviously the shopping experience is very important. The way you generate sales is by driving people to your site, having them like the product, and then by having them purchase the product. That can bring people to your site, but what we really try to do, and what all websites try to do, is to get people to come back. And while product can do that, our strategy recently, as we've sort of expanded our resources, has been to, as Layla mentioned, generate content and give people a reason to not just come to Notori.com and josiebynotori.com, but to continue to come back. And this is just sort of a quick recap of some of the things that we've been doing. We have a page on our Notori site called Notori Inside. And through this, so if you look down the nav bar on the left, we have a news page that has our company news, a Things We Love page, which is just sort of random things that our PR department decides are cool and would be fun for people to read. My mother's blog is under that. We launched a bra finder app, which was a great project where people, it's a free app that anyone can download through iTunes, where you can answer a couple of questions and we provide suggestions for what your perfect Notori bra is. And then below that, we have our live lookbooks for all our current collections, so people can see sort of, not just the product pictures that are available on our site, but all of the sort of the glam images as well. So that's for Notori. So for our Josie collection, which, as I said, is a little is more modern and more contemporary, we have the Josie Girl blog. So people with Notori can easily identify that with my mother. Josie is more of a younger contemporary collection, more aged sort of between 20 and 35. So my mother had the idea of having my wife actually come up with and do a blog, which has been out since October. It's been a really fun way for her to be more involved in the company, and it's actually been really successful as well. So I encourage everyone to read it. It's josieblog.com, and it's connected to the brand, but it's not too commercial. So it's really just whatever's on her mind, whether it's a new recipe, fashion that could be Josie but doesn't necessarily have to be, really whatever. We do blast emails. We've accumulated a database of about 25,000 email addresses, so we send blast emails to them 3 to 4 times a month. This is a recent blast email we sent announcing our new bedding collection. The blast emails can be product related, but like I said, they're not always. We don't want to beat people over the head just trying to push product. So our blast emails are really a combination of both product and sort of other ways to engage them as well. As everybody is, we're on Facebook, and we work with a company called Buddy Media, who provides us with tools to sort of engage our fans more effectively through contests and promotions and things like that. And then, as all brands do, we have our Twitter accounts, and Layla touched on the importance of Pinterest, and we've certainly seen sort of great feedback through that as well. So we now maintain a Pinterest page. And then we use Instagram as well to give people kind of behind the scenes pictures of what's going on at Notori. So that is it, and I just wanted to put a recap here of all of our different pages in case you wanted to follow any of them. So that's it.
Thank you. I wanted to open up this part of the discussion now to the Q&A and kind of start with, I have a question for Layla. If you follow Layla on Twitter, you can see how active she is. And one of the things that mobile devices, social media does is really put everyone in connection with each other. And a consumer can get a hold of Layla on Twitter, a buyer can get a hold of her. And Layla, I was just hoping you can speak a little bit about how easy it is for you to connect with everyone and how you leverage those connections to drive sales.
Yeah. So like I said, before we had even launched the brand at Curve, I started a Twitter account, and I was tweeting back and forth with, key boutiques that I had identified. I found that there wasn't really a lot of people on Twitter in 2009. It started to grow a lot in 2010, 2011. I started noticing more and more lingerie retailers were getting on Twitter, and then also the bigger retailers were starting to get on Twitter. But the real ability to make connections is if somebody's actually tweeting as their brand. So a smaller boutique is a lot easier to get a hold of than Saks or Neiman's, where there's a PR department who's tweeting for them. So again, that was my target market. As a small brand, those are the buyers that are going to be taking the risk on a new, untested brand and putting your face forward. So I started tweeting, and I was just tweeting with hashtags like lingerie, and really it's when you first start tweeting, you're like talking into a big crowded room, but nobody's listening to you, and you're just hoping that somebody's going to like pique their interest and hear what you're saying. But then when you really start getting a hang of Twitter, it's when you start following people, and then you see people follow you back with similar interests. That was part of how early on I realized I wanted to separate my personal Twitter account from the BTS lingerie one, because I started tweeting a lot about my cats because I'm around them a lot, and I just said I can't be tweeting about lingerie and cats, this is just too bipolar. So I started my own personal Twitter account, and what's been really weird for me as a designer is that I always knew that consumers and other boutique owners and buyers wanted to connect directly with me, but I didn't realize that we would share a lot of the same connections. Like the cat thing actually became a reason that people will follow me as my personal Twitter account, because they want to hear or see funny stories. I got a kitten and I was tweeting his pictures and all the rambunctious things he did, and people would start to talk to me about that. They'd talk about their cats, and then I'd be tweeting about lingerie in between, and they'd say, oh, where can I get that? And I could say, tweet at the store they could get it at in their area, and say, oh, you should go in, and then, personally introduce them and say, you're tweeting with so-and-so. So for those of you not familiar with Twitter, there's a hashtag, which is a £, and then a keyword. So lingerie would be a keyword. I created my own hashtag for my kitten called Kitten Capades. And so if you clicked on that hashtag, you'd see all of my previous tweets about Kitten Capades. So you see just my cat tweets, basically. So I created my own proprietary hashtag. And that's one way that you can brand yourself. You see now on television, they have the hashtag at the bottom of the TV screen, and you might be like, what is that writing there? That little £, plus a symbol is because people are watching TV literally with their phone in front of them, just talking about the show. It's this new way of interacting in this new era of social media, and it's immediate. And I will now go on Twitter and see what other people are saying to see if other people on Twitter are thinking the same thing about a show. And then sometimes I'll search for a brand to see what are other people saying about this brand or about this store, to see if I actually even want to go into the store. So as a brand and as a designer, it's hugely important for me, because that's where I get a lot of contacts. So it started with the boutiques, and then as we grew and we did things like trunk shows, I'd see more of a personal connection. So first I'm going in and meeting somebody in person. I'm giving them a card that has my Twitter handle on it, because I'm not giving them my personal email, it's a consumer, but I'm giving them my personal Twitter handle. They can tweet at me. And so right after an event, they can tweet at Lingerie Layla and say, hey, I had a great time at the event, back and forth. And then later on, it creates this personal bond that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And I get a lot of bloggers and consumers tweeting at me and saying, how does this fit? What do you recommend? And then at that point, I'll direct message them if they're following me, which is a private tweet. So the person has to be following you and you have to be following them for you to communicate that way. So it also allows you to have a degree of separation. So if you don't want to follow someone, say there's a heckler on Twitter, you don't have to get that personal direct message. So it will go from not knowing somebody to knowing somebody in an instant, because you're seeing all of this information come at you very quickly in real time about their life. And it allows you to also be up to date on the day-to-day happenings of something like a store or a boutique that's across the country that I can't be in. I can see Twitter pictures, I can see little updates about customers coming in, and I can get direct messages or tweets about somebody coming into a store, and the store will say, oh, I just sold one of your pieces today. So you get a lot of interaction between stores, consumers, and brands. It's a huge marketplace now, and I think the people who have seen the power of that the most at this point has been, television and media, but I think that it's coming to stores in a much bigger way. I think to the point where we might even have hashtags. When you walk into a store, there's a hashtag or a Twitter handle so that you can tweet about it, because there already is Foursquare badges that you can scan with your smartphone and check into that location, Facebook badges that you can scan with your smartphone and check in. And if people get into Twitter, they're already into it for television and other things. They're going to start tweeting about products and sample sales and events and trunk shows. So it's growing like wildfire.
Does anyone have a question for Layla or just in general? I wanted to ask Kevin in terms of the social media aspect. We had a conversation about the virility of social media and how a brand, a designer can take advantage of that with e-commerce.
Yeah, so we one of our clients has really, well, they had quite a few following. They started a couple years ago, maybe with 100,000. Now they're over 1 million. It's a brand that, well, it's Burt's Bees. They're in the natural fragrances and lotions and things. Anyways, when they launch a new product, they actually started on Facebook. They start on Facebook and an email blast, and they'll send out an email or Facebook post regarding a new product line they're launching, and they'll give away free samples. And the results of this have just been outstanding. We had about 35 samples in the warehouse that they were going to send out, and we posted something in the Facebook page, or they did rather, and within 24 hours they had run out. We had to turn it off. Because again, it's not just saying, well, I got a product. It's about the value of that product. So if it was toothpaste, they had it with a little video saying why this is the greatest toothpaste, in the world. And then using the microsites, they had a landing page that was everything about that product, the value proposition, the ingredients, all those things. So, just an example of if you have clients out there who like your products, as you introduce new product lines and things like that, this is where the virality, if you will, of social networking can really grasp hold. And using the concept of these microsites and just getting that same content, as Layla said, it's the same content you have in your site that's on these other social networks. You're not doing anything really new. You're just expanding your aperture, so to speak. It really provides tremendous business returns.
That's great. And it's something that I think a lot of people underestimate the work that goes into all of this. I think all three of you can really speak to that, from Layla, who does it all on her own and with some help, to Ken. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys decided to do in terms of social media and how to reach out to your consumers?
Sure. So yes, social media is, like I said, it's a very important part of our strategy. But to be honest, it was one that we didn't probably focus as many resources on earlier in the game as we should have. But now I think we make sure that we certainly make sure that we have accounts and that we're participating in sort of all the major social media outlets. We don't have any staff solely dedicated to it, but we have a PR office or two employees who work in our headquarters who do a great job of sort of feeding the beast of all of this different social media stuff. And it's interesting to look at because the great thing to me about e-commerce that's fascinating is that you can see a very concrete return on your investment for most marketing methods. So I mentioned earlier, we have a very robust Google AdWords and Microsoft AdWords campaign. Those are campaigns where we pay money to show up when people do searches on Google or Microsoft, and those, every time we get clicks, that traffic comes back to our site, and we can see, very granularly how much we're paying for each conversion, and the math is a no-brainer. So we just feed that, and that's very easy, and there's no question about that investment is providing a great return. Social media, it's you can still measure it, but it's not necessarily as mathematical. So we know, obviously every time we post something on Facebook, we look to see how much interaction we have. We try to track to see, what customers are coming and who are doing what. But I think, in terms of the social media investment, obviously it's very important. It's a little harder to track granularly, and I love looking at numbers, so that's sometimes not necessarily, it's a little more frustrating. But we know how important it is, and we know that every time we do these things on Facebook, we see from customers, and like I said, this is part of the real-time feedback we get from running our own e-commerce. We know how popular they are, and we know how much people enjoy them. So maybe we're not measuring stuff not able to measure stuff on a dollars and cents basis, but we can see that these all of this effort is worth it in terms of what we're putting into it.
That's great. Any questions from the audience?
Hi, just a quick question. Do you use any tools such as Hootsuite or TweetDeck or any of those things to sort of streamline your social media?
Is that to everybody? To everyone, or?
Layla, I guess
Okay.
you can go ahead.
I use Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a program that's online based. It allows you to connect your social networks into one place and allows you to update it from that one place. So you connect your Facebook, you connect your Twitter, you can connect a couple other ones, but those are the two that I might use it for. Facebook has downgraded things that come from apps like that, so now I use it mainly for Twitter. But for the most part, most of my tweets are coming from me at that moment. But one of the things that I think is dangerous about Twitter and syncing things is having things that are the exact same thing in two places. It doesn't give people a reason to follow you in two places. And people who are reading something on Twitter are looking for something that's very short. So that's the only danger of syncing. But the one thing that I do sync is blog posts. Those get synced to our Twitter. So our Tumblr will sync to our Twitter, and so will our blog. The other way that you can sync things is by using something like Bitly, where it's automatically grabbing a feed and creating a shortened link for it and then tweeting it. So you have to connect all these things. You have to create a feed. It's embedding code or taking the RSS from your blog, which is the code that is generated by blog posts, and then that feed feeds into something like Google Feed Burner, which can tell you how many people are tracking it, and then Google Feed Burner that feed can be pulled by many other programs. So that's some of the myriad of connections I've had to learn as a new brand. I don't know if anyone else wants to answer as well about syncing or.
We use Buddy Media. They're our Facebook partner, and their tools have been great in terms of doing things that you can't just do when you log into Facebook. So I've noticed, like Layla, we don't actually use Buddy Media to post things because a lot of those get downgraded, and we noticed we weren't getting as much interaction. But we do use Buddy to run our promotions, to make those tabs on Facebook, and also to create the fan gate, which forces people to like your brand in order to see sort of the behind the scenes content. And we do use the Buddy Publisher tool to publish over the weekend when we don't have employees in the office, sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you have do you have customer service around the clock, or just regular hours?
So yeah, we do not. What? So we don't. So there are two ways to look at customer service. Before we did that whole live chat thing that I was showing you, I looked at outsourcing customer service, and then we looked at having people in-house who may not be there 24/7. I would rather have dedicated staff who knows the brand, knows everything, and can actually answer questions there for a shorter period of time, as opposed to having somebody just sort of checking the box who can't really answer anything and who has to say, I don't know the answer, you have to wait till Monday. So basically, if we go back to that live chat thing, so when we don't have staff on our, this was really long. Sorry. So when we don't have staff on our live chat thing, that click here for live chat, it actually turns into a different message which says click here to leave a message, which is still a better way for customers to sort of get a question answered on Monday morning or whatever. So yeah, we looked at, do we want to do customer service 24/7 but have it be C- customer service, or do we want to have A+ customer service for during business hours? And it was kind of a no-brainer. So maybe someday, we'll see.
Have there been any studies showing what all this success is doing to brick and mortar?
You mean the
Well,
online success?
what's happening with the stores? I mean, we're not having 20% increases on their website and 20% increases in their store. Where is it coming from?
Well, I think that there's also, stores are on social media just as much as brands are, and you can work with your retailers. So as a small business owner, I work with the boutiques that we have because I don't have a brick and mortar store.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
But all of the department stores have websites, and they have a lot of brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. Are they building more branches? Are they not going to be building more branches? I mean, it's not, you're not going to get it in the stores and through the website. I mean, where are they trading? There's got to be some business that's being traded.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Like it's a balloon, you squeeze here, it goes somewhere else.
Exactly.
But the real big winners in here. So without naming names, a lot of clients that we work with, I've seen, have hands-on experience with. They're not. Their brick and mortar partners are not suffering. In fact, their numbers are going up as well in terms of, I'll just look at online sales for a moment. Online sales of their brands are going up in the brick and mortar as well as within the manufacturer or the brand's site as well. And I think it speaks to, again, the power of the brand and getting that message out there. Like in anything in life, there's going to be people who win and people who don't win. And so I'm not quite sure who's not winning in here, but if you have a solid value proposition to clients and as we've seen in this marketplace, in this economy, the luxury brands are doing exceptionally well. They're not, their business is growing. So it's not about price point. I think maybe people are becoming a little more discerning in terms of the value of the brand, or maybe being careful about, where they spend their money. And so in a lot of the clients that we work with, I'm not seeing, their brick and mortar channels suffering at all. The brand's expanding, which is great.
Are you saying that the social media is helping retailing?
Am I saying that social media? I'm saying, well, actually, Layla's saying, but
well, I can give an
I'll just say that,
opinion, not a statistic. I've seen that major stores and smaller stores that are nimble in social media are benefiting from being nimble in it. The stores that aren't picking up fast enough are dropping off. You're seeing boutiques that don't pick up on the fact that they need to socialize with their customer beyond having just a plain one-page website. The stores that are building out e-commerce are now, that maybe didn't stock specifically for e-commerce, are now stocking for e-commerce. So I can speak from some of the smaller retailers that are growing that we work with. They're now buying separate stock for their websites. So they're seeing the growth because of their nimbleness and their aggression in that category. And I think that it's just it's a sign of the times that if you don't grow with where people are shopping and how they're shopping, you're going to see business fall off. But the ones that are nimble, like Saks opened a Twitter account, Neiman's opened a Twitter account, they're recording better sales than ever on their websites as of last time I read Women's Wear Daily. So those companies that are taking advantage of social media are benefiting from it. There's no disadvantage. I can't see a disadvantage in socializing and connecting with consumers.
And I'll just echo that because in the brands that I've seen who are really getting into social media and even just expanding their e-commerce capabilities are doing very well. I mean, for a lot of companies, and some of it's counterintuitive, and it may seem counterintuitive to people, but they're becoming a lot more visible, a lot more out there. They're providing value. They're listening to their customers, maybe for the first time. I don't know. But it's amazing that when you interact with people, they'll tell you what they like and what they don't like, and then you can adjust your strategies. I mean, let's face it, retailing for forever has been about getting the right product in the right place, the right time, the right price, and you hope someone walks by. Well, on the web, they're always there. It's omnipresent. So it just changes the way you think about things. So I think those people who are the most active are doing very well.
And I think the threshold to feedback is lower online. Again, we all feel a little bit braver between the screen, between us and somebody else. So I think that you are getting feedback from customers. I know we get honest feedback. If something fits or it doesn't fit, we might not be able to see it in person to see what's wrong, whereas a brick and mortar store would get that. Like, I personally feel bras, it's really difficult to sell online. Anything beyond sleepwear, loungewear, it's really difficult because you need to have that fit in the store. I think that's one of the categories, and again, this group is, that's what we're speaking about. I think intimate apparel is difficult to fit online. Foundations. Shapewear, because again, the point is to squeeze into it. That's a little bit easier. But anything else, the tolerance is not there for bad fit. And so you're seeing, companies. I was looking at an e-commerce company who's solely e-commerce. They had a shop, like a personal shopper program where you're basically talking to somebody, they're fitting you over the phone, and then you're getting a whole bunch of bras, and then whatever doesn't fit, you send it back. So that's a new way of approaching a customer that might not work for a traditional brick and mortar, but a brick and mortar who's willing to expand their thinking and change the way that they're selling could benefit from that.
To that point, Kenneth, in terms of return rates in bras, for example, do you have a correlation between what you see in the retail versus your online percentage-wise? Are they equal or obviously higher, I would assume?
So I'll say this. So we launched the website with our sleepwear first, and we really didn't add bras till about maybe 6 months to a year later. Our return rate for bras is actually much lower than it is for sleepwear. And that's not because, I completely agree with Layla. Fitting a bra online, it's impossible. And, there's some sites that are trying to do that, building algorithms and trying to change that whole thing. We don't do that. The reason our return rate is so low is because the people coming to Natori.com are people who
already buy Natori
know their
bras.
Natori bras. They know their size, and they just reorder, and that's fine. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're a new brand that people don't know, I think trying to sell the right size bra online is an incredibly challenging process. Fortunately, we're sort of playing from an unfair playing level because we have people out there that come back and will buy the same bra in a new color every 2 to 4 months or whatever. So we've actually had tremendous success with our bras online, but not because of anything special that we did on Natori.com.
I just want to ask, one of the new places that obviously people are shopping on, not just on e-commerce sites, but also on Facebook, and I just wanted to just kind of touch on that with Kevin. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on in terms of e-commerce on a site like Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, all these sites everyone wants to jump into the e-commerce game. If they have your eyeball, so to speak, on a product, they want to, close the deal. And that may be applicable for certain products or certain companies, but I just come back to what I personally feel. I think what Ken echoed is it's that experience that you want to provide to the end buyer, the shopper. I mean, because this is your brand, And you know, if you look at what goes into building an e-commerce site, all the complexity of you know, making sure you got the sizes, the colors, the inventory there, you know, just kind of handing that off to someone else is kind of a dangerous game, because now you're, or maybe, I'll just say that, because now you're putting the brand experience in someone else's hands who, you know, Facebook is not an e-commerce site. I mean, they're going to try to be, but, you know, I'll just go right there now and maybe be a contrarian and say, you know, Facebook is hot now. There's going to be a better Facebook come along. Remember MySpace?
Yeah.
Anyone see that? You know, so let's not get too caught up in you know, that as a business, because the way I see kind of things evolving is back to this experiential state. And Pinterest is a good example of people within common communities who are, you know, advising each other. I mean, this is how ratings reviews became so popular. You know, people will believe people like them more than they will companies in terms of how good this product is and things like that. And, you know, you see sites like Open Sky where you have kind of aspirational buying. People are following someone who they respect and then listening to their opinions. And it could be on Twitter, it could be on, you know, online. And, you know, so I think the whole way people are going to buy online it's exciting to me, because it's really shifting. And if you think back where it was a few years ago, it's really changing in terms of the dynamics. So that's why I think the world's going to be very different in e-commerce over the next couple of years. And you know, so it's, I guess, a long-winded answer, but I'm not a huge fan of just sticking your product. It may be good for a SKU if you're trying to do something, but as a general purpose, I think, you know, you've invested a lot of money in providing an outstanding experience. You want to bring people back to that experience.
Then I think also, you know, a lot of those things are challenging to implement too. I think, you know, one of the challenges I find is that, you know, I think we do a good job with our site. Is it A+? No, but I think it represents the brand well, and it has everything that it needs to have. And one of the challenges I find is that, you know, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said, oh, you know, I just saw this on Saks.com, we should do it. Or, you know, Hermes is doing this with their website, we should do it too. Yeah. I'm like, that's well and good, but that's not reality, you know? Selling something on Facebook, people don't really appreciate how, it's not just like you snap your fingers and something can happen and you can put your products everywhere. Everything involves a lot of implementation, a lot of thought, and really just opens the door for a number of things that can go wrong. So, you know, the thought of Facebook commerce, yeah, it would be cool to sell more Notori stuff and see how it works, but, you know, given the fact that we do all of this in-house with a very, very lean and small team, we don't really have the resources or really the desire to be kind of like a leader in terms of trying out all this new stuff that takes a lot of effort and, you know.
And also, touching on that, you also put a lot of thought into doing a mobile version of the e-commerce site, and I was hoping you can touch on a little bit about where you decided to go on that route.
Sure. So we looked at mobile. Obviously, you guys all saw the numbers. You know, the percentage of transactions that are coming from mobile devices is through the roof. So we talked with our e-commerce providers about, you know, what could we do to make Notori.com more mobile optimized. So keep in mind now, anyone through your mobile devices, you can go to Notori.com and you can buy anything you want, and I encourage you to. So people would say, you know, why do you need a mobile strategy? So our site works fine on any type of device. Is it optimized for a phone this size with this, you know, with this small of a with a display? No, but it still works. So when we talked with our e-commerce developers about what it would take to have like a site focused on mobile, it would basically be sort of doubling the work we do and having like a whole separate pool of data and a whole separate pool of processes to manage for our mobile site, which would basically double everything we're doing for our e-commerce site. So, you know, obviously we understand that a lot more is moving to mobile, but given the fact that, you know, people still can buy from Notori.com on their mobile, it may not be perfect, but, you know, we sort of weighed that and have decided, at least for now, that it's not worth the extra investment of time, really, more than anything else. But I'm sure, you know, that is certainly one of the it's on the agenda for the next couple of years.
Gotcha. And
could I add something to that? like just going back to Facebook and then also e-commerce, one of the biggest things for me as somebody who's grown up in the mobile generation is that I am comfortable sharing a lot socially, but there are certain lines like Facebook e-commerce that kind of scare me because again, Facebook's business is collecting our information. It's not a free service. They're collecting information about us. Every click, every like, they're building a profile on you. And so for me as a brand owner, having a Facebook commerce kind of scares me because again, I want to protect our customers and our consumers, and so that's one of the reasons that as a brand I think that's a little bit of like a touchier territory. And then also the same thing with mobile commerce. Wireless networks are not as safe as landlines. You know, your mobile device can get stolen. The future is also going to be in developing security so that we don't feel like or have our identity stolen through our mobile devices. You know that they can already scan your credit card with something in somebody's pocket, or at a restaurant you hear these stories. So the mobile device, if somebody steals this out of my bag or if somebody steals that phone out of his pocket, you know, you want to make sure that the customer's information is safe. So I think that's also something that, you know, not everyone can do right now because it costs a lot.
Question on the side.
I just have two questions for Ken. When you decided to go e-commerce, what was the reaction from your brick and mortar customers, and how did you handle that? And second question is about the pricing. Is your pricing online comparable to the pricing in the brick and mortar?
Right. So it's a great question. So, you know, when we were thinking about our e-commerce strategy, as I mentioned, sort of working in harmony with our retail partners was certainly the top of the list. You know, if we started a business that drove X sales to Notori.com and got any single one of our retail partners upset, it wouldn't be worth it. So, you know, we launched the site quietly. You know, we didn't advertise, and you know, nobody said anything. And then to answer your question about pricing, yes, the pricing is the exact same. You know, we won't mark stuff down ahead of anybody. So, you know, we go out of our way to make sure that the retail partners don't have anything that they could complain about. One other thing we do, you know, like I said, we truly view everything agnostically. So from our Facebook page, we'll drive traffic to Saks.com. If we're out of stock, our customer service people will drive people to drive people to any of those websites. And then one other small thing we do, which might be a little too inside baseball, you know, some brands don't want anyone except their own website using any of their trademark terms to advertise. So for example, if you typed in Notori on Google, our website would come up first, and in the paid search, you would see maybe our paid ad, but then you'd see buy Notori at Nordstrom, buy Notori at Saks, you know, buy Notori at Bergdorf, whatever. Some brands won't allow their retail partners to do that, whereas, you know, our strategy is, hey, you know, as long as companies are doing stuff to promote Notori and our family of brands, we're more than happy.
You have the same product online as you have
Absolutely.
in the stores?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Don't feel free not to answer. What is your conversion rate?
What's our conversion rate in terms of, so, yeah, well. Yeah, so, you know, our straight conversion rate is, do I need to, yeah. It's good. It's above industry average. I'll say that. We'll leave it at that.
Diplomatic.
I have a question for Layla as well as Notori. Being in the lingerie business, I'm sure you have some creeps following you. How do you deal with that?
Well, being in the lingerie business and as a woman with a Twitter handle, it's Lingerie Layla, I think some people might follow me. I think a lot are bots. I get a lot of follows from weird bots, and bots are basically automated Twitter profiles, created fake profiles that have code that automatically follows people with certain keywords and or tweets at them and tweets spam at them. So I get a lot of those. There are definitely some male followers that are weird, but I just don't respond. I mean, that's how I would act in real life. Like walking down the street, if somebody like heckled me, I wouldn't respond and I wouldn't pay it any mind. So same on any social media network. Actually, I feel like I have to protect our models more because I have a FormSpring account. FormSpring is a website that allows anyone to ask you a question anonymously, and I've gotten a lot of weird questions about our models, like can I get sent special pictures or something they wore, like, so that is a little weird. That's one of the weirdest things that I've had happen. Do you have creep issue with that?
I've got 0 Twitter followers, so I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I mean, we have a spam filter on our Facebook page, so we get alerted when a weird comment comes up that we will delete. But I definitely personally don't have those problems. So.
Ken, my question is, who hosts your live chat feature on your page? And can you tell me if you get more people that call in or more people that want to chat with customer service? Okay, so the live person is hosted by live person. So they both host the, they host everything. And I would say our customer service team gets a lot of people that call in. There are a lot of people who are home all day who just want somebody to talk to. So I think in terms of efficiency per unit of output, I think the chat is great, and you get a lot of people who call in. I kind of meant who hosts it? Like, is there a company? The physical person? No, the company that. It's called Live Person. It's called Live Person. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's called Live Person, one word. Okay, and then I had a question. Does Trifecta have the same live chat capability?
We've integrated several different vendors of this technology, and they're pretty much simple. So just to be clear, when they say hosted, it'd be like a service that they host, but it's not their people answering the phone. In this case, it'd be Notori's people answering the phone. Okay. Literally, they just give you, they just give you a piece of HTML code. You put it on your product page. You download some software, and that's it. And then obviously you have to put a person to man them.
Great. We have time for one more question to wrap things up. Does anyone have one? Ross?
Would you say that your social media has helped your retail business?
Well, so our only direct-to-consumer is Notori.com. I think overall, our social media has helped Notori overall, and I think it's helped us at Notori.com. I think it's helped increase brand awareness, which has led to better business at Saks, Nordstrom, Neiman's, Dillard's, Bloomingdale's, and all of our retail partners. Is there an imbalance between how much it's driving to their .com businesses versus their in-store businesses? Probably. But all in all, we want to grow the brand, and we want to grow interaction with the brand. And I think hopefully that's working, and I think it's working across all channels, one of which is Notori.com, but certainly not the only one.
And I'll just say that I think it helps all businesses, but it's like anything else. You get out of it what you put into it. So I think that's an important point to make, that unless you really make an effort, then you won't get as much out of it.
Great. Thank you. I'm hoping we can give a big round of applause to our panelists.